The topic of today's video is going to be knots. Now, in rock climbing and camping, all things outdoors, we use knots, right? Tying yourself or someone else into rigging something up, taut lines for tents, for tarps, for hammocks, anything kind of like that. Securing down loads when you're moving things, whether it be a kayak, something in the back of the truck. Today, I'm going to teach you a handful of knots, maybe a little more than a handful. We're going to do that, and hopefully we walk away a little knottier. That was a terrible joke. Why do you subscribe to this? So the first knot that we're going to talk about today is going to be the square knot. The main use of this knot is just connecting two different ropes. Ideally, the closer in size, the better. But what we're going to do is we're going to go, this is my right hand, this is my left hand. It may be different from your viewing angle, but we go right over left. And we go left over right. Now, as you can see, both of these ropes have created what's known as a bite. Now, a bite in a rope, and I'll show you on this, is simply when a rope does this. Now, if these two legs were to cross over, this is what's known as a loop. Bite, loop. A little bit of terminology there for you. A square knot is just used to connect these. So the next knot we're going to talk about is known as a lark's head. And so the whole point of this knot is to slide something through and use the rope to kind of bear weight on it. So all you do is you create a bite, you bend it down to create the two eyes of the lark's head, and then boom. And you can take anything from a rope, for this instance we'll use a pin, but you can see that that creates a toggle. Now a toggle, all a toggle is something put through a rope to stop it from slipping back in on itself. The next knot is going to be the double Fishermans. Normally we use this in rock climbing when we tie a figure eight, which we'll talk about here in a minute, but it's used as a backup knot. More length here, there, and then you feed it through like that. And normally there'd be a larger knot here on this sliding end, and this is used in case something goes wrong with the knot. This would jam it and stop the rope from sliding through. But one of the more interesting ways you can use the double Fishermans is to connect two pieces of rope similar to the square knot. So what you would do there is take two different ends of rope, and then so we go around one, come back down to create an X, come back around, and where the X was, we slide through, cinch everything down like that. See, this rope still can slide through. And now we do a second one, and I'll go slower for this one. So we have the tail end, the working end. So we go around, leaving our thumb in place, and you can see we cross over, making an X, come back around, and where our thumb is, X marks the spot. We feed the rope back through there. And there we go. Now, we have two knots that can slide on each other like that, but if we apply tension to the opposing ends, boom. And these will lock up. This is not a life-supporting knot. I would not hang myself off of a cliff face on it. So the next knot we're going to talk about is the figure eight follow through. What we're going to do is we're going to create a loop in our line. We're going to come around the loop with our working end, and we're going to pass through that loop. And when we give it some tension, boom, we have a figure eight. Once we have our figure of eight, we're going to take the working end, we're going to pull this open, and we're going to follow this rope all the way back through. Give ourselves plenty there. As we can see, the rope goes around and through, and so that's exactly what we're going to do here. We're going to go around, through, then we come back around this way and follow through there. Start to pull some tension on the knot, and that is a figure eight follow through. Now, there is another way to tie the figure eight follow through. The way I showed you first is when you need to tie into yourself or a participant. If you're not using a carabiner, I mean, you would loop that through, you know, a loop on their harness. You would tie the figure 8 first, then get loop through here, and then do the follow through. But if you're gonna use a carabiner, there is a simpler way to do it. So we have the working end, we have a bite, take a long length, you go around, and then back through, and there you go. Throw your backup knot on there, and you're good to go there. So the next knot we're gonna talk about is the Bolon. Super ubiquitous knot. You use it in tandem with so many other knots. Taut line hitch, trucker's hitch, things like that. Just about anything you can use with a Bolon. So the whole point of this knot is you're going to create a fixed loop on the end of the line. So what you do is you take your rope. We have the working end on this side. We're gonna make a loop in the rope, okay? Now we've all heard that little, you know, story about the rabbit comes through the hole and he goes around the tree and then he goes back down into his hole. Well, when you tighten that down, that creates the Bolon. What we're doing is a series of different types of half hitch. The working end, and for this instance, I'm using a coffee cup. We're gonna go around. Now we're going to take our rope and we're going to go across, and then we're going to go underneath. This is when we apply the tension. That's a half hitch. Obviously, that's not a very strong knot. So what a lot of people will do is they'll create a second half hitch. So again, we go across, under, and through. And now this knot, when we add tension, that's not gonna go anywhere. That's gonna hold. Now, is it life supporting? Obviously not. Most knots are not. But there is something we can do to a half hitch. When you put a lot of weight, if you use a trucker's hitch or something like that on the other end, this is going to bind down really hard and can kind of be a pain to undo. So what we're gonna do, our half hitch again. So again, we cross and we just feed it through. Now, we're gonna do another half hitch, but instead of taking this working end and feeding it through, we're gonna make a bite and we're gonna feed that bite through the rope. It still locks down, same as two half hitches, but this is known as a slippery half hitch because with this tag end we have here, whenever we want to pull the rope down, we simply give it a tug, boom, boom. Simple as that. The Prusik Loop. Now what a Prusik Loop does, it's an attachment point, right? By doing this knot, which if you remember from earlier, this is known as a lark's head. We open this up and we go through it again. We'll make sure that none of our lines are crossing over each other. Let's see if we can get a third wrap. If we want to slide it along the rope, we can, right? However, let's put it over here. If I apply tension, it doesn't slide. If I grab this end and I pull, it doesn't slide. Now, what's the purpose of this? Let's say you hang, you know, your tarp off the end of this and you want to grab tension. You would pull it with that load on it, it's not going to slide back and it keeps the tarp nice and tight. So what if you have a line and you need to add an attachment point, create a bite in the rope? Now I go twist once, twist twice. See where my finger is? I come up and I feed the end through. And then when we pull, it locks it down. And that is the Alpine Butterfly. This creates an attachment point in the middle of the line. And this is a load-bearing knot. By adding something here, you're not taking away from the strength of the rope. The last knot we're gonna talk about today is trucker's hitch. It's used to add tension to a line. If you don't have ratchet straps, but you have a piece of rope, this will get the job done. We have it tied off over here with two half hitches and we have the loose end. So what we're gonna do, we're going to create a little slippery half hitch here. Around this other end, we're gonna have it tied off. We're gonna go here. And by doing this, we're creating a sort of pulley. This is going to give us mechanical advantage. Pull until nice and tight. And then all we're gonna do is we're gonna go half hitch. There's one, and then we can do another normal half hitch through here, or we can get fancy like we did earlier, and we can do a slippery half hitch. But that is how you add tension to the line using a trucker's hitch. Again, super useful knot. I think everyone should know how to tie this one. That is gonna be it for the video. I hope you learned a couple new knots. As always, like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know down below what kind of videos you guys wanna see next. I wanna make videos that you guys wanna see. And until next time, stay outdoors.